I want to begin by wishing everybody a very special International Women's Day, and thank you to all of those who are joining us from around the world. I am Masha Sajde, Global Board Member for American India Foundation, and it is an honor to welcome you all to this very timely discussion on the intersection of women's economic empowerment and climate resilience. The American India Foundation works to eradicate multidimensional poverty in India through high impact interventions in education, in health, and in livelihoods. And over 25 years, AIF has served more than 19 million people, underprivileged individuals from across 35 states and union territories. And with this strong commitment to gender equity, our programs empower women and girls because we believe when women have the resources and opportunities to lead, entire communities become stronger and more resilient. Today, you will hear from 4 incredible leaders who are working to ensure that women are not affected by climate change, but are actively shaping solutions for a more sustainable future. As we all know, climate change spares no one, and women, especially those in low-income and rural communities, face disproportionate risks. In fact, women are 14 times more likely to die in natural disasters than men. They are more vulnerable to climate change and economic instability because they rely on natural resources for their livelihoods. And since they lack access to financial security or land ownership or decision-making power, when disasters strike, they are at greater risk of displacement and hardship. But don't worry, it's not all gloom and doom for women, because women are also at the forefront of resilience, playing central roles in agriculture, in water management, and community-driven adaptation. In fact, up to 80% of food production and 70% of household water collection in developing countries is managed by women in rural areas. It is a well-researched fact that investing in women's knowledge, resources, and empowerment strengthens households and community resilience. I want to share an example of how access to a progressive, green livelihood has transformed the life of a young girl, her family, and her entire community. Can we please see the video of Sonia, who is a young AIF beneficiary?
मनमानी करेंगे हमें आज खुद से वादा किया शैतानी करेंगे हमें आज खुद से वादा किया।
मैं समाज की कल्पना ऐसे करती हूँ कि लड़कियों को भी बढ़ावा दिया जा सकता है, लड़कियाँ भी आगे जा सकती है और मैं चाहती हूँ कि लड़कियों को ही बढ़ावा मिले।
It is very important to have women in green jobs because this is a new age technology. This is something which is getting developed now.
लेकिन कभी अगर मौका देना फैमिली अपने बच्चों को तो लड़कियां भी वो चीज़ दे सकती है, वो खुशियां दे सकती है जो लड़के दे सकते हैं। मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है कि मैं अपनी मम्मी को सपोर्ट करती हूँ। मैंने ITI करी, उससे मुझे इतना अच्छा ऑफर मिला जॉब प्लेसमेंट के थ्रू, तो मैं बहुत खुश हूँ कि अपने फैमिली को सपोर्ट कर सकती हूँ इस चीज़ में और मैं खुद अपने पैरों पे खड़ी।
सोनिया बड़ी कंपनी में काम करने जाती है तो हमें बहुत खुशी होती है, इतना अच्छा लगता है, बहुत ही अच्छा कि हमारे एक बच्ची है कामयाब हो रही है।
मुझे AIF की ट्रेनिंग नहीं मिलती तो मैं इतने अच्छे प्लेटफॉर्म पे काम नहीं कर पाती। काम तो बहुत दूर की बात है, मुझे अगर AIF ही नहीं मिलता तो मुझे पता भी नहीं चलता कि बाहर क्या होता है क्या नहीं होता। फिर मेरी वो स्टडी जितनी स्टडी की बस ठीक है, घर तक ही रहती वो स्टडी, वो मुझ तक। तो AIF सबसे बेस्ट ट्रेनर था।
Well, this has been a godsend. When we started our operation 15 years back, we did not have anybody who would call themselves expert in electric mobility. So we really had to create the whole ecosystem on our own. AIF is basically playing the role of a very strong bridge, which basically bringing these two together. It is not about muscles, it's about creativity. Munia is a perfect example that people at her age and hers with her skill set, which have actually met at the right juncture. and it is very important for us to collectively grow as a society, as a planet. So that's where green jobs are the most important thing.
ये गांव ऐसा था जिसमें मैं ही एक लड़की थी जिसने आईटी की थी और इतने एआईएफ के थ्रू ही मैं इतने अच्छे जॉब पर गई हूँ।
मेरी लड़की ने रास्ता ये किया है कि इसको सब कुछ सोच कर दिए कि हाँ ये मैं जा रही हूँ तो सब जाओ, कि पढ़ लिख के नौकरी लगे, सरकारी लगे, कहीं अच्छी जॉब लगे, तो हाँ अच्छा नाम होए भाई, हाँ गड़ी बोलने की लड़की है ये।
थैंक यू एआईएफ जो मुझे इतना अच्छा मौका मिला, मैं अपने पैरों पे खुद खड़ी हूँ।
माना अपनी ऊंची करेंगे आवाज, खुद से वादा किया।
And inspired by Sonia's story, today's conversation is going to explore how equipping women more broadly with education, financial tools, and leadership opportunities can transform climate challenges into opportunities for innovation and resilience. Our speakers will share insights on what's working, where gaps remain, and how we can all contribute to a future where women's empowerment and sustainability go hand in hand. So without further ado, allow me to introduce our four amazing speakers. Sneha Sachar, who leads the Clean Cooling Initiative in India for Climate Works Foundation to make green cooling technologies accessible to all. Nidhi Chadha is founder and CEO of Enzo Advisors, a women-led advisory firm that helps companies achieve sustainability through their environmental, social, and corporate governance practices. Jagada Sivan, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Waverley Street Foundation, a philanthropic organization that invests in community-led climate innovations. And our very own Director of Livelihoods at AIF, Bandana Rai, who is leading the charge on green livelihoods and making stories like Sonia's possible. Thank you all for joining us on this special occasion. Let's dive in. And for our audience who may not be entirely familiar, could each of you begin by briefly introducing the work that you and your organizations are doing? Jagata, would you like to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Marsha. At Waverley, like Marsha mentioned, we focus at the intersection of climate and community. We are a unique philanthropy, as in we are a spend down that's focused at this intersection. And our primary mission is to empower community-led climate solutions. So these are solutions that not just address the climate crisis, but drive systemic change and build resilience for the long term. Our key program areas are energy and food, like clean energy and regenerative agriculture primarily. And at Waverley, we believe that the path to a sustainable, just future starts with listening to communities, sharing power, and ensuring that climate solutions work for everyone, not just a few. I'll pause there. Thank you.
I need Waverley Street in my community, Jagata. Thank you.
We're there.
Now, would you like to share next?
Hi, everyone. Wonderful to be here at this very timely conversation. I'm with Climate Works Foundation, which is a global platform for philanthropy dedicated to solving the climate crisis and creating more sustainable and equitable futures. We drive climate action by supporting transformative policies, scaling high-impact solutions, and fostering collaboration across sectors. Within the Climate Works Foundation, I'm part of a program called the Clean Cooling Collaborative, which is committed to accelerating sustainable cooling solutions that protect people and the planet. As the world around us continues to heat up increasingly, the demand for cooling is also increasing, and so are the associated emissions, which in turn causes even more warming in our communities. So our program aims to break this vicious cycle by promoting lower climate impact solutions. And we do this through diverse approaches, such as enabling thermally efficient built environments and communities, promoting energy efficient and innovating cooling technologies, and facilitating wider access to climate-friendly cooling for people most at risk from the threats of extreme heat. So thank you. Wonderful to be here, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Sneha. Very pertinent topic in this warming climate. Bandana, perhaps you can share a little bit about your history with AIF and what you've been doing in green livelihoods.
Thank you, Masha. So this is my 4th year at American India Foundation, and I lead Livelihoods Vertical to ensure that each dollar that we invest it meaningfully to bring long-lasting smiles for our communities. Masha has already shared AIF's background, and I will add a bit about our work around empowering women-led communities, climate-resilient communities. So under AIF's Green Livelihood initiatives, we empower communities in India to build sustainable climate resilient futures through skill development, entrepreneurship support, and access to green jobs, thus creating green collared employees and greenpreneurs. By integrating sustainability into workforce development, we equip each of the individuals that we work with, especially women, persons with disability, families of mining communities, and marginalized groups in emerging sectors such as renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and circular economies. So through our strategic partnership with the stakeholders in the green ecosystem, we ensure that the economic opportunities are connected while we also advance climate actions, and thus ensuring that people and planet can prosper together. So looking forward to this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bandana. Nidhi, can you shed some light on the important corporate sector's role in climate change?
Absolutely, Masha. Hello, everyone. My name is Nidhi Chadha, and I'm the founder and CEO of Enzo Advisors. We are a female and minority-led sustainability practice focused on both corporates and investors in building sustainability programs into their core strategies. And we really sit at that nexus of finance, strategy, and technology, where we take a very holistic, quantitative, and qualitative approach when we're building programs for our clients to mitigate risk as well as to unlock value creation. What's really unique about our process and our approach is that we all come from a financial services investor background. And therefore, we really focus on leveraging data-driven insights and combining that with rigorous financial analysis and deep industry expertise to really build customized solutions and frameworks that deliver financial impact. This could be everything from building systematic ESG roadmaps. It could be guiding companies on decarbonization pathways, reporting, communication, and even building supply chain transparency, and more recently, building out biodiversity programs. And in addition to founding Enzo, I wear a dual hat as Chief Impact Officer to Richmond Global Sciences. Richmond Global Sciences is an AI intelligence platform that focuses on impact valuation. Really excited to be here today.
Thank you, Nidhi, and thank you everyone for the amazing work each of you is doing. What a beautiful cross-sector representation we have here today. Still holding Sonia's story in our minds, I'd like to open the discussion with a question for Bandana. Bandana, can you set the stage for us with what have been the most effective approaches for giving women in rural India access to climate-resilient livelihood opportunities? And also, how can these be scaled for long-term sustainability and environmental sustainability?
Thank you so much, Masha. This is such a beautiful question and such close to all our hearts, everybody at AIF. So as you rightly mentioned, initially in your opening remark, Masha, that women have been the most affected receivers of extreme climate conditions, but at the same time, the most participative givers when it comes to climate resilient solutions. So being very mindful of this fact, we have successfully taken up more than 20 pilots of women-led green livelihoods, innovations, initiatives across multiple sectors. And thus we have arrived some 2 years back, we arrived at a very, very comprehensive Village Vistar model of rural community development. Vistar in English, for people who don't understand Hindi, Vistar in English means development. So it has multiple drivers of growth embedded into it to engage, enable, and empower women-led rural communities, and actually profiling rural women as greenpreneurs. So why we all know, and Masha has also mentioned earlier, that around 80% of agricultural workforce comprises of women as a cultivator or self-employed laborers or maybe unpaid laborers, but only 13% of them own their own land. So the Village Vistar model comes and says that, what if you don't have the land holding, but you are the one, hey woman, you are the one who can actually make these lands more productive. You know how to better use it. And also, it has been proven that when women have access to financial resources, it's not only, it doesn't just increases their agency and decision-making power within the household and community, but it also directly benefits the entire family and community by enhancing food security, nutrition, access to better medical facilities, health services, or in other words, it makes the community more climate resilient during extreme climate conditions. So one of the very, very promising and scalable growth drivers under this Village Vistar model is our multi-layer farming, practices that we have started, which allows the very, very ultra small landholders to earn maybe 4 to 5 times more round the year. It mitigates the challenges of seasonality. The nature, agriculture, one of the reason is not well received is because of seasonality of the business. And that is why it integrates, this multi-layer farming integrates round the year agri production cycle, and this helps the farmer to get some produce in every quarter and keep getting a kind of a sustainable income. This multi-layer farming also empowers multi-income households by the women leaders leading the agri supply chain and value-added farm products. And to top it up, it reduces carbon emission almost by 30 to 40% by replacing fertilizers, pesticides, chemicals with organic and natural products. So I'm so happy and excited to share that the first multi-layer farming project that we started last year was actually led by 50 women and persons with disability and mentored by a national award-winning mentor from the sector, Akash Chaurasia ji. In fact, while we are having this conversation, the team, one of our teams from Pune district, the Village Vistar team, is sitting with Akash ji on a farmland for the post-training briefing and having some rural dinner together. So what I'm trying to say that this, by facilitating this unique kind of a agri-skill training, mobilizing the initial farm setup and connecting a fair-priced market, this model is a game changer. And we've actually experienced it by scaling it up across like all the Village Vistar sites with the AIF. This model can also be scaled up further across all the agroclimatic zones by converging and leveraging the national and state government schemes, like-minded philanthropies, and the corporates. So considering the paucity of time, I thought of just sharing this model. Like this, we have got, as I said, almost 20 different types of model, which can empower the women-led climate resilient communities. Over to you, Masha.
Thank you, Bandana. I felt like you were talking directly to me with the kind of approaches. I am a great-granddaughter of a farming family. My father was a farmer too, and I totally hear what you are saying, and I'm going to wear the label of a greenpreneur. I love it. Thank you. With these in mind, Nidhi, my next question is for you. Given the evolving dynamics of global trade and their potential effect on India, how might rural communities be impacted? And what are some viable and sustainable financial solutions to support the growth of women-led green enterprises in the global south and particularly in India?
Evolving is the key word. It's practically an understatement these days, Masha. Yeah, as we are really truly in uncertain times at the moment, there are so many moving parts in the equation at this point. The impact that we see across these trade dynamics in the long term could have positive or negative effects on rural communities. If we continue to see open collaboration across trade, it could result in increased market access, improved knowledge and technology transfer, and what's, of course, very critical for the agricultural sector, and then continue to see increased investments from foreign parties. These are three drivers that could be very positive and disproportionately impact women, particularly, as Bandana called out, are a key part of the overall workforce for the agricultural sector. On the flip side, we also are hearing a lot more about these unfortunate back and forths, which may result in reciprocal tariffs. Now, this could actually, if we do get caught up in a world of this situation and a potential trade back and forth, we may see some headwinds that impact the costs for our entrepreneurs. And this could create financial challenges for the partners as well, who are navigating these concerns, and they may be distracted by all the noise that we're seeing today. So, puts and takes to consider. The jury's still out as to, which direction we see, but there are a lot of considerations that could impact our greenpreneurs, if you will. But before we dive into the actual structures that could close the gaps and help these entrepreneurs, what we really need to think about here is what is going to make a partnership successful? What do we need from partnerships and structures to be aligned with the entrepreneurs on? And there's three key components we need to consider. One is education. First and foremost, we need to educate both the entrepreneurs and their prospective allocators of capital on exactly what the benefit is of the impact. How are we measuring it? How is this tangible? Two, accountability. We need to make sure that there's a focus on outcomes, that not only are we looking at financial returns, but we're also thinking about it from a more impact-oriented lens. And this is, again, a second part or second derivative, if you will, of education. And then third and key to the entire equation is measurement of impact. This is really where AI comes into play. We want to showcase to external stakeholders, the community, the government, the investors, employees, how enterprises can be scaled to have long-term impact. And as a quick example, recently at Richmond Global Sciences, at my dual hat, we worked on a case study for an electric transport company. So this was a greenpreneur, and essentially when we did the analysis, we found that for every dollar earned, there was an equal dollar of positive externality of impact, both from an environmental and a social lens. So not only are they moving towards the goal of climate action, but they actually are impacting their local community, and that's being quantified. So we can actually say that from a social and a fair wages standpoint, those positive externalities are also vastly improving the poor urban community. So we need to educate these green enterprises on how to think about this, educate the allocators of capital, and make sure we are moving forward in this in a very measured and objective format. Once we have that in place and we have this alignment on these three objectives, we then think about, okay, what are the financing structures that could work? So from the scale of working with the least mature greenpreneur all the way to the most mature, there are 5 key models for consideration. One is just a blended financing model. So thinking about the public partnerships in place, we see a lot of activity across emerging markets there, broadly speaking, developing markets. 2, impact investing, which I alluded to earlier. These are investors that recognize that financial returns and impact returns are not a zero-sum game. You can have it all. 3, community-based financial institutions. So these are the organizations, particularly when the communities, rural communities are underserved by traditional banking institutions. Where else can they go for funding, for guidance, for advice? And just they have the flexibility to focus on that community growth. 4, and very interesting one, is supply chain initiatives, supply chain financing. We're seeing a lot of large organizations across the globe focus on collaborative financing with their supply chain. And as there continues to be pressure on the supply chain to report their environmental and social impact, we're seeing a lot more traction here because there are key performance indicators that are required to get linked into the financing element. So as we educate the entrepreneurs, we also can educate them on how to measure impact, what key KPIs are relevant, and that will help move forward on the supply chain initiatives. And then last, but definitely not least, is green financing options. This is more for the more mature companies, but definitely we can think about green bonds, green financing, and various other alternatives. Of course, there's the microfinancing is an option as well. Hits a couple of these pillars. But I'd say, we want to see a blend of all these avenues, all of which come back to those 3 prongs that I mentioned about education, accountability, and measurement of impact.
Thank you, Nidhi. That's a lot of options to make some serious impact through women-led entrepreneurship. And if you can get both financial returns and impact returns, who could say no? Moving on to a question for Jagada. Jagada, there is a lot of overlap between what Waverly Street does and what AIF's commitment to community-centric interventions has been. How can philanthropic investments go beyond just the short-term project funding and really drive long-term systemic change for women in climate resilience efforts? And have you seen any examples of how this is being done?
Firstly, Marsha, I'm so glad for this question because I think this is a very current and relevant topic in the philanthropy sector, and it's It's a direction that philanthropy is shifting to. I'm going to state the obvious, which is if we truly want to drive long-term systemic change in general, and specifically for women, and specifically for women in climate resilience, we have to move beyond the short-term project-based funding and invest in building entire ecosystems. And that means not just supporting programs, but all of these channels. And Nidhi touched on one of them, which is financing channels, technology access, training, market connections that women need to succeed and scale their work. And again, piggybacking on what Nidhi shared, one of the key parts is strengthening financial institutions, so working with banks and microfinance providers to offer long-term low-interest loans. And this kind of financing ensures continuity, so women aren't left hanging when a grant, a philanthropic grant, ends. Two other pieces. One is another critical investment would be leadership development. Helping local champions and mentors emerge from these communities so they can support and guide other women entrepreneurs, because there is the power of the peer network that needs to be tapped in. So when this peer network is combined with climate resilient infrastructure, let's say solar powered workspaces or community processing centers, we're building shared assets that sustain businesses again after a grant cycle ends. The third piece I'd say is philanthropy's role in supporting policy advocacy and embedding in these solutions that are being created into mainstream government programs. So some of these initiatives are part of the main ecosystem and not a side project. And when philanthropy brings in the private sector through public-private partnerships, I think will end up unlocking more innovation, scalability, and long-term sustainability. All to say that at the end of the day, I believe, and at Waverly Street, we strongly believe that lasting change happens when philanthropy fully supports the ecosystem. And then we see women not just as beneficiaries, but as leaders, innovators, and decision makers. And that's the shift we need as a sector. And as I said, that's where Waverly is trying to focus. So, yeah.
Thank you for stating that mind shift so clearly. Women not as beneficiaries, but as leaders. And do you want to share an example of how this long-term vision is being set that you've come across through the work at Waverly?
So I was kind of struggling with that a little bit because at Waverly, we're a pretty new foundation. So we don't have a story of this long-term shift that has truly been catalyzed by Waverly just yet. And I don't think it would be right on my place to spotlight another organization having that. There's so many examples. And I'm hoping that in a couple of years, we can look back and be like, okay, when Waverly started grant making in 22, this is how systemic change has happened. So I'll save that for the next panel.
Thank you for your candidness and long-term vision and keeping that question going. Sneha, I would love to hear the work that ClimateWorks is doing. And can you tell us how ClimateWorks currently supports AIF's climate capacity building work, which is strengthening on our climate resilience portfolio that we are building? And from where you sit with this extreme heat becoming a major challenge globally, but especially in India, how can sustainable cooling solutions empower women, particularly those that work in the informal sectors and spend long days outside, and women in agriculture who are bearing down, have the sun bearing down on their backs all day? How can climate solutions empower women in these positions?
Thanks for that question, Masha. And, we could discuss this for the whole day, but I'll try to encapsulate this. Let me start by really putting the challenge in perspective. So by the end of this decade, India could become the first place in the world where the combination of high temperatures and humidity during heat waves could exceed the survivability limit for a healthy human. So I'm saying end of the decade, which is, not too far away. And let's layer on top of that the fact that India has one of the largest at-risk populations due to lack of access to cooling, almost 320 million people. And then another fact, the ownership of cooling appliances is amongst the lowest in the world in India currently. So given this context, sustainable cooling solutions and broadening the access to cooling for everyone is a critical priority so that people can stay healthy, they can learn and work safely, they can preserve the quality and safety of their food and medicines. And women in low-income communities are particularly vulnerable to risks from high heat. But I'll also echo what Bandana said. Enabling and empowering women really benefits the community at large. So some ways in which our work is addressing this overall challenge and enabling women to be more climate resilient is one of the initiatives is by educating and empowering women to access practical, affordable, and sustainable solutions to make their homes and settlements cooler. This could be things like roof materials made of heat-reducing materials such as bamboo, heat-reflecting exterior paints, shade-providing vegetation. Thousands of households have benefited from this work, which reduces indoor temperature by up to 6 degrees Celsius, which is a significant shift when we are talking about situations like sweltering heat. And many women often work in their homes or shops or other facilities without climate control. So we're doing this initiative at the grassroots level with our partners in India to really enable women and create women champion within communities who can then not just do this in their own homes, but also proliferate this within the community where they live. How do we make the dwellings more thermally comfortable? Another layer of this is working with municipal governments in developing community-led cooling solutions. So the focus here is not necessarily maybe just women-centric, but overall communities at large, and women are a part of that. One recent example is where we worked with the city of Jodhpur in India to build a community cooling shelter. And this is a low energy using and largely passively cooled community cooling shelter, which gives people some relief during extreme heat events. And this is for marginalized communities. It is also for outdoor workers, food delivery people or salespeople who are outside and need even a 20-minute of break from heat, data tells us, can really have, prevent heat stress, heat strokes, and health risks due to heat. And then the third piece I want to talk about is education initiatives. So we are working on making women more aware of the specific heat risks they might face and giving them adequate warning and actionable guidance when extreme heat is predicted. This can help them prepare and save lives, not just for themselves, but for their entire families. So, bringing in partners like the medical associations and creating training programs on the intersection of heat and health. And then fourth example I'll use is in the agri sector, we are working to support smallholder farmers through enabling access to decentralized cooling solutions. These could be micro cold storages or pay-as-you-go kind of cooling solutions. Another part of this is enabling market linkages and facilitating access to financing and even policies where there are government policies that exist, but people are not necessarily aware of them or not able to leverage them. So really opening these doors, and ultimately the objective is to not just reduce food loss, but also to enhance income of smallholder farmers. And some other innovative approaches that are being tried are insurance instruments that are tied to climate events and particularly heat. So a recent example here, last year, there was a women's climate shock insurance and livelihoods initiative in India, which provides income support directly to women that are working in the informal sector when there are harmful heat waves. So it's a system where you're eligible for direct cash payments equivalent to a day's wage when temperatures hit a certain high threshold. So these are some of the micro level solutions targeting women. And then, of course, there are macro level solutions such as facilitating the right kind of policy initiatives that will enable and empower thermal comfort and reduce heat stress for our populations and communities. I won't go into that in detail right now, but let's save that for later.
Actually, Sneha, that's a perfect segue. We have limited time, but I do want to ask the entire group together to perhaps share their thoughts on what is some example of a cross-sector collaboration, whether it's with government or whether it is with philanthropy or whether it is with the corporate sector, where if you were to implement one high-impact intervention to empower women in climate action, what would it be?
If again, great question. And if I had to choose one high impact intervention to empower women in climate action in India today, it would be to establish a financing mechanism that would provide low cost credits and grants to women entrepreneurs to adopt DRE powered livelihood technologies, things like solar cold storage or millet processing units, mechanized textile weaving. Because I think one of the biggest barriers for many women entrepreneurs, specifically in agriculture, dairy, and micro enterprises, is upfront financing of clean energy solutions. So a solution that would remove that barrier, enabling women to invest in climate smart technologies, I think is almost the need of the hour.
Thank you, Jagada. And I loved the insurance example that Sneha shared as well. Any other thoughts on a high impact intervention or even an example of use of AI or generative AI and its role in climate resilience?
I would just chime in and say, from my vantage point, it comes back to the financing and closing that gap. Of all the solutions that we've talked about, I do believe that a big part of the solution rests with impact investors. They have the ability, given their mandate, to really help these entrepreneurs at a very early stage in their respective businesses to be able to not only think big picture, but then help them understand how do they build that granular business plan so they focus on the key performance indicators that folks are going to finance and fund. They have the relationships, they have the resources, they have the AI tools and technology to help collect this information. So we talk a lot about various tools and technologies that can help farmers and rural communities. They have access to these rural resources. And where can we leverage some of that financing capital to start moving the needle, in a pretty big way? And now it'll start small. It may start with one or two investments, but the scalability is that they're using AI and tools and technology from a resilience standpoint, from a value creation side of things. And I think that's really what's going to drive change. And I'm really excited to be, personally very part of that journey, through Richmond Global Sciences on this, because when you have the actual ability to take AI and measure impact, you know where your dollar is going, and that's what is going to move capital. So the high impact intervention, in my perspective, really starts from those impact investments and that capital.
Thank you. Vandana, anything you would like to add before we close remarks?
Yes, I'll take maybe 2 minutes and divide your questions into two parts. So I just want to take this opportunity and tell you the story of Sonia quickly, not just what was there in the video, but the background and how she is now. So we met up with Sonia some 2 years back in one of the rural ITIs, wherein she had done her education but was not getting any job because her skills were not updated, market aligned. And that is where our partnership with the leading EV player in India, Hero Electric, came in play. We partnered with Hero Electric, and Sonia and another 100 of her classmates, including 12 women. And when I'm saying women, a couple of them were married women who were sitting idle. They wanted to do something out of their life, but they didn't know how to. So they were taught the EV technicians' skills. They were given on-job internship in Hero Electric's manufacturing unit in Punjab. And today, including Sonia, her other friends, they're actually working in the corporate office in NCR. And the best part about this entire story is that Sonia has already got 2 promotions in less than 2 years and is earning 80% more than her joining salary. So that is why I give this example, that this is the power of collaboration. Collaboration between government, who has the state-of-art infrastructure, who has the potential to scale up, who has the community's trust, but they need somebody coming from private sector, from philanthropy, who have flexibility, who have innovation, who have the quickness to align visions of multi-partners. And then there are these ground level CSOs, the NGOs, who actually know how to, break the mystery on the ground, how to work in the on-ground challenges. So when all these stakeholders come together, we have outcomes like Sonia, who can really grow, who can see the transformation. And Jagda, this is the story of a leader, a normal village girl actually becoming leader of the community. And looking at Sonia, we have got other girls from the community who want to come into this green, becoming a green collared employee. Now coming to the second part of your question, Masha, as in what do we want to do now? So depending on our learning and all the esteemed panelists today, you have actually vetted what we have already started doing, and we invite you to collaborate. It's a national level Green Livelihood Academy. This is a physical academy which is centered around Center of Excellence, collaboration with government, prime institutions like IIT, ISMs, industry partners from the sector, communities from the mining area, from underserved communities. Everybody comes together to actually, again, I would repeat the terms, to create greenpreneurs and the green collar employees. And this physical center actually is supported by a virtual learning management system, wherein these candidates throughout their life, they get a continuous learning. They get access to the upcoming job opportunities. And thus, we are able to create an entire ecosystem of climate resilient women and the communities. And to do all of this, we cannot do it alone. So we are calling all of you to collaborate to maybe make a better, greener future for our next generation. So I stop over there looking at the time. Yeah.
Thank you, Vandana. Very inspiring.
I echo what the panelists said about the importance of, financing and impact investing. And I think my one high impact would be to just empowering women through skill building. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Any particular skills you want to call out?
I think it's skill building broadly across the spectrum, just raising awareness. So it's not necessarily skill building for XYZ kind of vocation, but it's really raising awareness, bringing information to people, access to information. Sometimes even when financing instruments are available, because of lack of awareness, people are not able to leverage them. So I think just information is empowerment. So linking women with what's around them from a policy resource or financial resource perspective, making them aware of climate risks and challenges, giving them some actionable guidance on sustainable lifestyle choices so that they can make their homes and communities more resilient. So it's a really wide spectrum of climate awareness and linking women with the resources and information and support that is available around them.
Well, skilling was the success story of Sonia. So power to skilling. Well, thank you all. I think we are a little over time, and my apologies that we didn't get to start on time, but hopefully we will be able to wind up with all the links that have been shared in the group. I wanted to say thank you to our panelists, Sneha, Nidhi, Jagata, Bandana. Thank you all so much. This was a truly insightful discussion. I learned so much. And with the links that are shared in the group, all of your LinkedIn profiles are accessible to the audience in case you want to follow the journeys of our panelists. And thank you to all our viewers from joining from across the country, across the world. I hope this discussion was inspiring to you. All the questions that we weren't able to get to are noted, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. I also wanted to say, if this is an engaging discussion and you would like to continue to hear these themes. We have our annual galas coming up, and we can continue this inspiring conversation. On April 19th, we will be in San Francisco at the Fox Theater. On May 3rd, we will be in Boston. On June 10th in New York, and on November 8th in Chicago. And we would also like to thank and lift up our media partner, Equities.com, which is a financial media platform, and it serves the needs of modern investors. Please consider joining the newsletter to stay in the know and to get some of the vital areas of impact that Nidhi was mentioning. And most importantly, happy International Women's Day. Continue to enjoy the rest of the day and all the celebrations for Women History Month that are about to follow. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.